the way out of it. And I was trying to process the idea that maybe I was going to be depressed like this for the rest of my life. And this was just the new normal. So that was terrifying. I had this gorgeous, sweet angel child, healthy. I was so lucky and blessed, and I was just a mess. I was just a mess, and there was nothing that I could do to fix it properly. And it felt like there was nobody around who understood, because there was so much stigma around it, and because it's so misunderstood. It took me probably about 10 months to really realize what it was that was going on, of me researching and figuring it out myself.
Wow, you had to do it yourself. Because I know also you talk about how, like, when you finally did talk about it, you even lost an endorsement deal.
Yep. Neutrogena I was with for 10 years, and I mean, they have morals clauses, which was had a huge impact in my life, because I was a teenager, and I had all the paparazzi around me catching all of these gory moments, like every moment, every cigarette that I smoked, or bad outfit, or oh, she's looking chunky in a bathing suit. Oh, she has a fat vagina. I mean, I went through all of that. They were there for everything. Neutrogena was a huge part of my life. I had the morals clauses. They caught absolutely everything, and of all the things that they would fire me over, this was the last thing that I thought they would ever fire me over. And when I actually went out onto stage, it was live with Kelly and Michael. I had no intention or plan to talk about postpartum depression. It just came up, and I was just being honest. And never for a second did I think that anyone, or cared that anyone would have a bad reaction to it. It was my truth. And so when I got that call that Neutrogena wanted to fire me over that, and my representative at the time said, that's illegal. You can't do that. And even though, she saved the day that year, I knew that was going to be it. That I was not going to be invited back the next year. And I had worked with these people for 10 years, and I remember not hearing a word from anybody. Not a great working with you for 10 years. Not a nice.
Hope you're okay.
Yeah, hope you're good. We wish you well. And I remember that really breaking my heart. I wouldn't change it for the world. I wouldn't take it back. But as I said, of all the things that I had been caught doing, that being the thing that was where they drew the line, and it was immoral, was shocking to me. And it made me realize and understand exactly what people thought of women who experience postpartum depression, and how misunderstood it is, how much stigma there is around it, and how, we're already in pain.
Mm-hmm.
We are already, like, the worst possible thing. One of the worst possible things in the world to happen to a woman is already happening to her. The last thing we need is, the icing on the cake, and feeling so judged and in such a negative way.
What do you want people to know about postpartum depression that you think they miss? That
it's real. That it's not something we make up. It's not something we want. It's not that we've lost our marbles, and it's not something that we want to go through, and we're not lying when we tell you something's wrong, and we're in tears for absolutely no reason. Like, we don't have control over this, and this would be the last thing that we would ever want to experience or go through. We want to be with our child, our brand new child, and be filled with joy and feel like the luckiest person in the world, and capture every moment. And for anyone to think otherwise is just misinformed.
Yeah.
And I think people need to know a lot more about it, need to understand.
Did the facility you visited help you with the alcoholism, or what finally actually helped with that?
Oh, I struggled with that for years. It was an on and off battle for a really long time, and getting out of that depression was really difficult. And the fact that I didn't have the time to really spend on healing myself and fixing myself, figuring out, how to navigate this and get back to my old self, because I was on Nashville and we were shooting so much. I mean, at one point I did have to say to the show, I have to go get treatment. You're going to have to write me out of the script, which upset a lot of people and made me feel awful, because I'd always prided myself in being a professional. But it was incredibly important for me to get my head screwed on straight, or I was gonna, I was just going off the deep end. I felt myself sinking further and further and further into this dark hole that I just could not climb out of.
When I was reading the book, it just felt like the challenges just get tougher and tougher and tougher and tougher and tougher as you kind of, go through it with you. And they also seem kind of, again, just as your career in the beginning stages was almost not a choice, all of these things also feel that way, where it's kind of like just happening to you. And because of, just it's not a choice to bring these things on.
No.
They're coming off, of course, postpartum depression and everything else that's happening through that, and also not having these conversations. Like today, millions of people will listen to this conversation and be able to have a better understanding of what that means and what that looks like. And today the conversation around these things is growing. It's still not where it needs to be yet. And sadly, there are still terrible headlines and terrible gossip and terrible stories made up about people. But these conversations are beginning to happen, and you go, okay, well, hopefully the next person doesn't have to go through the fact of not knowing where to go for help, or be seen as, oh, just get over it or move on, or there's something wrong with you, or whatever the ridiculous things we all hear are in those scenarios. Yeah, I think it was around this same time that you talk about in the book where the custody of your daughter shifts from, over to Vlad and to Ukraine, I believe, as well. And I feel like that was especially talked about terribly, where there's so many speculations and so many opinions and so many assumptions on why that's happening. Could you tell us what was really happening?
I mean, the idea that anybody would think that I would just give away my child and be okay with it is heartbreaking. Couldn't be further from the truth. As you said, I was struggling with mental health and anxiety and the postpartum, and having to act my way through it, and just feeling like I completely lost myself. And I think a misconception is that I have been in the past forced into treatment, when in fact I have been the one who sought it out, who was saying,
I need
I
help.
desperately need help. I know this is going to look terrible, but I cannot live like this anymore. And even though Vlad didn't understand it, the people around me didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was going on. They were supportive. I went to go get help. They didn't know what was going on. And so it became this horrible cycle for years of battling depression and anxiety and alcoholism and substance abuse and me just trying to find my way back, my way out of this darkness. Um, in any, I would have done anything and tried anything. But it wasn't until Kaya was 2 years old, about 2.5 years old, that Vlad decided that he thought it would be best for her to live in Europe. And when that first happened, I did not have a good reaction to it. I went like mother lion. I would have burnt the world down for my child. So that was incredibly difficult. Not, the fact that my child wasn't going to be with me all day every day was I mean, it just, you can't put words to it. It's just a really intense layer, feeling that are multiple feelings really like layered together. But I realized that, she had been traveling back and forth for so many years. And because I was working on the show and because Vlad had to prepare for fights and as a businessman in his own right, she had to go back and forth between the US and Europe. And sometimes we would go together and sometimes she would go with the nanny. So she had spent a lot of time over there. She had family, she had friends, she had extracurricular activities. She already had a beautiful life and she understood the languages and was starting to speak them. So by the time I finally got healthy, I felt like it would have been unfair of me and selfish of me to try to pull her out away from this life that she had been created, that she was living an incredible life. She's an incredible little girl, so happy and speaks 5 languages and rides horses and knows that she's got 2 parents that love her. And I know in my heart that she feels supported. I have an incredible relationship with her. I travel as much as I can. I see her. I do spend a lot of time on FaceTime with her. But we talk about really deep things. We have a really intense, incredible bond. And I'm very grateful for that. And I know that she knows that she has 2 parents who would do anything in the world to make sure that she is happy and healthy mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and she in no way feels abandoned. And that's something that I've made sure to stay on top of and be very aware of. And I think it's also good to lead by example as a parent. She gets watch. She didn't just get born with one parent in the limelight who is famous and powerful. She was born with 2 and 2 completely separate continents and in their own ways, but she's very proud of watching her mom and dad kick butt and do what they do. She's our biggest fan. I think it makes her feel like she can accomplish anything. You can just see that she is good, she is solid, and she feels loved because of the way that she's able to love herself. And to watch as a parent, your 11-year-old already have this beautiful ability to love other people and love themselves is, you just can't ask for more than that. So I think there's been a common and, a very common misconception that I just gave up my child when there's that could not be farther from truth. So I hope people that are watching this, I hope it's a little clearer, and I hope it becomes clearer in the book.
Yeah, I think when they read the book as well, there's you see so much of the context that I think we miss in everything else. And there's this really powerful line in the book that you share where you say you grieve not being, this was at that time, you grieve not being the mother you thought you'd be. And I wanted to ask you, how do you hold that grief without letting it define the mother you are today?
The grief has definitely gotten the best of me many times. Many times. But it's transformed from grief. It was grief in the beginning, but because of the relationship that I do have with her and how things ultimately played out, I'm incredibly grateful to her. She has an incredible father, an incredible family, and I no longer, I don't feel it, even though it's not what I wanted to happen, and it's not what I hoped motherhood was gonna be or what it would look like. I'm so lucky that it turned out the way it did, and that she is safe and a wonderful, well-rounded person, that that we have the bond that we have, which is, it's something that I was terrified wasn't going to happen when she was taken away, that I was going to have to fight really hard to have any sort of relationship with her. And it ended up in a lot of ways being a blessing. I will always want her here. I always miss her. I always want her to, to have my arms wrapped around her, but that's just not the way life is right at this moment. But I do believe that, there will be a day where she's an adult and she's able to make her own decisions and go wherever she wants. And I have faith that she is going to come to me and that we're going to have an incredible relationship and bond and friendship that a lot of parents don't get to have with their kids.
Thank you for sharing that. It's always incredible how things don't turn out the way we expect them to, and yet it seems like you've found a way to work at it and work on yourself and try to make the shifts and changes you need to, whether it was, with the alcoholism, whether it was getting yourself up out of spaces that you didn't want to be in to try and be the person that you.
That's the only option to me. That's is you keep getting, no matter how many times you fall, you keep getting up and dust yourself off. It's and you keep going. It's what you do with these failures or falling on your face. It's what you do after that really counts. It's how you handle that really counts and matters. And I'll never stop fighting to be good.
Yeah, I mean, you were mentioning to me that also you have a strong relationship with Vlad, which helps this
Oh, yeah.
situation. Yeah.
Yeah, Vlad and I are very close. All three of us talk all the time. He travels a lot when he's in Europe too. So sometimes we have a three-way FaceTime going on. And sometimes, it's the two of them and me, but yeah, he's been incredibly supportive. I mean, he's brought her over here. She's known her great grandparents. They've been a part of her life. I've lost my grampy and my papa, but they were able to know her, which was really important to me. And she still has my Nana and my grandma. She calls Nana Super Nana. Super Nana. And she is Super Nana. Yeah. We have a great relationship, and Vlad and I are still best friends. There's not many people who know me in this world as well as he does, and I know that we still have an incredible amount of love for each other, and most importantly, we have an incredible amount of respect for each other. We made promises that something that I unfortunately grew up with was hearing a lot of negative talk from my mother about my father, and that had a really negative impact on me. It hurt to constantly, hear the person that you love be put down. So we made a promise to each other that we would never say anything negative about one another to our daughter.
Wow.
And that both of us have stuck to that promise, and we talk each other up to our daughter and talk positively about each other. And I check in with her, make sure she's being respectful, and that she's loves her dad, and that she knows he's a hero and one of the bravest people I know, and she loves both of us to death. So
yeah, I mean, I feel like it's an intention we all have to kind of repeat the good things our parents did well and try to not repeat the things that maybe they didn't do so well. And it's almost like we're always trying to be, I think those of us who are trying to be on the path of awareness. Yeah, evolve and just say, hey, I'm going to make other mistakes. We all are, because we're human, but going to try and do my best in this capacity. I feel like
absolutely
something we were talking about earlier about repeating patterns and people that we attract into our life. And you talked about this, and you were mentioning it to me earlier. You talked about, surviving your abusive relationship with your ex.
Yes.
And I wanted to ask you about, because like I said before, it's like every time you go further in the book and deeper in the book, I can tell that you know your truth and you know who you are. And as you said earlier in our conversation today, you're like, but I don't know if I'm always good at knowing or trusting my gut or following through on it.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I feel like I've let myself down so many times and let other people down so many times. And I've just, I worked so hard to create this incredible life and career, and I basically burnt it all to the ground, essentially, and had to, start climbing up that mountain. And it happened, more than once, and having to try to get out of my own way was the most difficult part of it. It was almost like I would self implode and destroy something good that I had going on before anybody else got a chance to. It was like, instead of setting myself up for failure, I knew I was going to fail. So I was going to just it might as well happen sooner rather than later. And it made me stop trusting myself. I mean, I wasn't even raised to trust myself, as I said before. Like, my instincts, aside from my instincts as an actor, as a human being, I was not like, I was not taught to really trust myself. I was taught to trust these people around me. It's been a really long road and a really hard road, and a really stressful road, trying to get back to that trust I had at one point when I was younger in myself, and how, knowing how important it is that you listen to yourself, that you listen to your gut. Every time that I have not listened to my gut, I have always regretted it. I found myself in a terrible position. The abuse, the fact that I allowed this person not only into my life, but for how long I put up with it. And this is a topic that I've been journaling a lot about it, trying to organize my thoughts and my feelings. And I did journal last night, and for the first time, I really feel like I was able to put into words what has been going on for the past decade of my life in regards to the abuse. And I was actually going to ask if I could read it, because I think it's really important. This topic is really important for me to word properly, word well, and so that the people listening really understand what I'm saying.
Please, yeah.
It took me a long time to finally see the situation clearly. I've had to do a lot of soul searching and therapy around this topic, because allowing somebody to get away with harming me was so unlike me. The more I thought about it and analyzed it, the more connections I made between the abuse I was allowing to transpire and the abuse I've gone through in my past. They say that you end up marrying one of your parents, and no, I'm not married, but I found a very interesting connection between this abusive behavior and my mother's abusive behavior. Even though they would both shake their heads and say I was crazy to think there was anything similar about the two of them, there definitely was. I realized that I was more afraid of being alone than being abused. And in order to be around that kind of behavior, it took me dulling my senses and numbing myself with substances in order to silence that rational voice in my head that was telling me exactly what was going on and the many reasons why I needed to get myself out of this toxic relationship and as far away from this person as possible. Somehow, every time I found the strength to get away from my abusers, they would always find their way back into my life one way or another. It was like being on a hamster wheel in this endless dizzying cycle. And the craziest part and the hardest part was to understand was that the physical abuse would come out of left field, but it was always when he was drinking, same as my mom. We could be dancing and joking, and then a switch would flip and suddenly it was on. Something would snap, and it was like watching a predator suddenly smell blood. I was dealing with this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde situation. I tried to fight back in every way that I could think of. I took every approach, from standing my ground to attempting to calm the situation to running and hiding from it until he sobered up. Then, once he was sober, that good part of him would be back, and he would see the damage he had done, and he was devastated and apologetic, and it seemed so honest and genuine that I was torn. I thought back to everything I've done wrong in the past and the forgiveness I was shown. So I think a part of me felt an obligation to be just as forgiving. I desperately wanted to make him a better person. I wanted to fix him. I'm a really strong person at my core, and anyone who knows me was shocked that I would ever allow anything like this to happen. I have this bright, powerful light in me that comes on, but then it would dim around that kind of intense conflict. I found myself trying to be smaller and weaker just to avoid a battle because there's no reasoning with the unreasonable, and as strong as I am, I couldn't physically stand up to a grown man. I know I have a big heart, and I always try to see the good in people so much so that it's been to my detriment at times. The worst part was that by allowing the cycle to continue, it hurt the people I love who came to my rescue, and I cannot allow that to continue to happen. In order to finally get off the hamster wheel and put an end to the cycle of abuse with him and with other toxic people in my life, I had to remind myself how strong I am. I had to envision the life I want for myself, and most importantly, I had to take accountability for enabling unforgivable behavior.
Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that from your journal. Very, very personal, and appreciate you, letting us in that deeply as you do in the book and in what happened in the last couple of nights, I believe.
Thank you for letting me share. I feel like, that's the first time I've shared that, so I'm feeling the weight, this weight come off my shoulders at this moment.
How does it feel to say it out loud?
When you feel so much pressure on your chest and those that anxiety and nerves, and then you're relieved by something like that, it feels like an elephant stepped off my chest. I feel overwhelmed in a positive way. I feel like I finally did it, and I got to do it in my own words. In this moment, I feel more trust in myself than I have in years. So I got a little bit of me back just now.
That's so beautiful to hear. It's you just said now that in your own words, and I feel like this entire book is a reclaiming of who you are. And
yeah, one step at a time, but that it's been a 10-year dilemma and trauma after trauma, and just to be able to explain it at all, I never thought that I would be able to put it into words.
You said in there that and I think a lot of us, we tolerate abuse because we'd rather do that than be alone. And I think when you look back on that, you can beat yourself up to say, why didn't I leave earlier? And as you were saying, like, I'm stronger than that. Like, why wouldn't I stand up for myself? And at the same time, there has to be a sense of compassion for oneself to say you're just doing the best you could in that moment.
Coming from a good place.
Talk to me about that.
That was one thing that made it all the more confusing to me, is because I've known throughout the whole thing that I wasn't doing anything to deserve it. And that's why I say in that part, like, talk about how it would come out of left field. It didn't take me saying anything wrong. It didn't take me doing anything wrong. It didn't take mistakes or jealousy, or there was no catalyst. And suddenly I would be being dragged by the hair, and it was like, what just happened? What did I do? What can I do to make it go back to 2 seconds ago? Like, what's going on? And as I say, you can't reason with the unreasonable. And it was like the person that you love just was disappeared. I would look in his eyes and they would be vacant. Like, and it was terrifying, terrifying. And I've always been interested in psychology. And so trying to understand what was going on. I mean, I was like going through the DSM, like in my head and trying to, trying to figure out, is it schizophrenia? Is it paranoid? Like, what in the heck is going on? Because it was only when alcohol was involved, but no amount of alcohol could ever make me capable of doing something like that, especially over and over and over and over and over and over again.
I'm so sorry you had to go through that.
It was like, I don't know, maybe it was my ego, like he was in my ring, and I felt like I was not going to let him, win the battle. And by me not, the idea, what would be winning to me would be fixing him, being able to fix him and make him better, because I saw some good in there and wanted to bring that to the surface. But I had no control over that. And some people don't want to change. And you just have to accept that, as disappointing as it is.
Again, I think you're being hard on yourself. Like, I think, there's all of, and by the way, we're all people pleasers. We're all control freaks.
Right.
We all have all of that in us because of how we've all been raised. And there's a sense that we all want to fix people and make people better.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we're working on these things, but we all share this, and but it should never lead to that.
No, no.
It should.
I no. The fact it still baffles me that it ever went there, that I ever allowed it to, that I ever stuck around for it. I mean, it's just so unlike me. But I think that a huge part of it is that being alone piece. Yeah. I had just finished, when I met him, I just finished Nashville and just moved back to LA, and I was lonely, and nobody was present in the beginning. It was the person that I fell in love with was great. So the Mr. Hyde did not show up until I was already in love with the Dr. Jekyll.
Were you able to talk to anyone? Did you feel you could reach out to anyone, or did it just feel so unsafe?
I felt embarrassed, humiliated. I felt ashamed. I wanted to keep my friends and the people that I loved as far away from the situation as humanly possible, because there was no understanding it. It wasn't rational. It didn't make sense. And I wanted to protect them from feeling the need to protect me. I just knew there was no explaining it without getting the reaction of, what are you doing? What are you thinking? And I would go, I genuinely don't know. I don't know what in me is putting up with this, is allowing this to happen. I really don't. And as I said before, there's never for a moment did I think that I deserved it or that it was okay at all. That was never a thing. I mean, I use the term forgiveness very lightly, because as hard as I tried to forgive, I'm not unable to do that. You don't forgive and forget those kinds of things. And that's not just the physical abuse, but it's also the emotional abuse that leaves the deepest scars. The bruises might fade, but you're left with these incredibly deep emotional scars from gaslighting and being made to feel like it's your fault. And I think I was caught at that perfect time where I was incredibly vulnerable and incredibly weak. He preyed on that, on my vulnerability.
What did it take to finally get out? Like, what does that take? Because I feel so many people stay there. How long were you tolerating this for?
Well, at one point, I thought I had gotten out of it and gotten away from it. But it's like we talked about before, it's like abusers, they weave themselves like weeds into your life, and there's always something that they left behind. There's also always something that they have to come back for. There's always something that they find to keep that connection, keep you on the hook, keep that connection with you, no matter where you go, that they will always find you and find find a way to slither back into your life. So I went from, really wanting to keep my loved ones away from it to that's it. I've snapped. You don't pull out a gun and wave it around. You only pull it out. This is
Yes, metaphorically.
it's not real.
Yeah.
But you don't wave it around. You only pull it out if you're going to pull that trigger. And I finally decided, that I needed to pull the trigger, and I called in the heavy hitters and the people that were going to protect me and make sure that he had no way back in, that this was going to be a done deal finally. I always hoped that this was going to happen by me one day. And as I said, I thought that I really thought I had done it and I was capable of doing it by myself, but I needed an incredible amount of support and backup in order to make sure that there was no way for him to find his way back in.
What did it take for you to take that step? Like, what had to happen for you to say enough is enough? And
finding out that the good that I was holding on to, that I thought I saw in him, was not real. That it was realizing all of the lies. I mean, you gotta be really good to pull the wool over my eyes, and that he was. But once I knew that good was not real, that good side of him, the big heart that I saw was just made up and was just acting, just really good acting, then I had the ability to let go and let myself off the hook, that I didn't have to care anymore, and that I didn't have to feel guilty anymore about parting from him. Whatever struggles he goes through are his, and they're no longer mine to clean up, and I don't have to worry about it anymore. I've released myself.
what you just said there is so real and so true, and I honestly honor your vulnerability and clarity, because it's what you just said, this idea of accepting that that person's good isn't real, because that's the thing that keeps finding their way back and keeps appealing to someone who wants to help and solve and fix. And it's just believing, oh no, but there's that, and you keep thinking it's real, even if it's small.
Mhm.
And you don't see it that often, but then when you finally accept, oh no, it's not real, it's actually the reason that they keep getting away with this behavior.
And it's heartbreaking to find out that it wasn't real. I mean, I remember finding texts that you've been having relationships and this and that. And one of the things that I thought was great about him is how loyal of a person he was. And when I realized how long that had been a farce, like I was like, I have somebody ripped off the rose-colored glasses, and I see clearly now. I see clearly now, and there's nothing left to, as you said, hang on to. There's nothing to keep me there or invested or forgiving in any way.
Yeah. And when you say heavy hitters, you mean the FBI had to get involved, right? Like, had to get to that level, or not really?
Oh,
not with
I
this.
mean, he went to jail.
Yeah.
He went to jail. And they did have to get involved. But he managed to weasel his way back in even after that for a little bit. So I had to get him out again. It was
That's crazy.
It was like this period of time of like back and forth battle. And I mean, as I said, I thought I had gotten away from him for this big period of time, and then for certain reasons, I won't go into the gory details of exactly what happened, but don't believe just what you see in a picture. There's so much more going on. So much more going on. Truth is stranger than fiction. It truly, truly is. You can't write this stuff. You can't make this up.
As I was reading the book and thinking about all the headlines that you've had to live through, and the conversation and the gossip and the everything that comes with it. And then, you did this People interview, I think it was like a year ago or something as well. And then again, the rumor mill begins about questioning your sobriety and how you're talking and everything. And then we learn actually it's because you're grieving and going through so much more behind the scenes. And I keep thinking, like, when will we finally stop? Like, assuming that we know what's going on in someone's life, or we know exactly why they are the way they are or who they are. And when will we allow them the opportunity to tell us? Because it's a real human with a real brain, with a real mind, with a real well-being, with the real emotions. And yes, no matter how successful someone is or whatever it may be, it's hearing things about you that are untrue are just so, like, at the core, just unsettling for any of us. And we know what that feels like at school. We know what that feels like in a family. And
when somebody says something, it's like there's no changing people's minds. It doesn't matter really, what you say. When I was younger, my father was accused of hitting my mother, and even though I knew the real story, when you say something like that about somebody, there's no convincing anybody that that's not the truth and that didn't happen. There are just certain things that people go, I'm not buying it. I saw it for myself. When you're like, if you saw the big picture, you would go, aha, oh, now it makes sense.
It's like watching, I feel like it's like watching 30 seconds of a movie and deciding who the bad guy is and the good guy is. And
Yes,
and why
good
they're in that
analogy.
scenario. And then you're like, all right, well, if you watch the whole movie, or you walk in halfway into the theaters and
Right.
it doesn't make any sense. And yeah, I really feel like This Is Me, this book does that for people who want to understand, what the picture really looks like. And you sadly, I mean, you've talked about him throughout, you sadly lost your brother 3 years ago. And you describe him in the book as the heartbreak of my life, always right there in the center of who I am. I wanted to ask you, like, how did losing him change the way you see all of this? Because it feels like the hardest one, even though everything we've talked about is extremely heavy and hard.
Oh yeah. There's nothing in my life that feels like losing my other half. Like the other half that was born to be the yin to my yang. And we were so close, and especially being the older sibling, who it's your job to protect them and keep them safe. And not being able to is, I mean, heartbreaking doesn't even begin to cover it. I would need a dictionary to go through all the words for all the feelings that that go through your mind. But I collapsed, and it stayed with me. I know time is the best healer, generally, but it's been 3 years, and every year it's changed. The heartbreak has changed, but losing him and realizing how much of life I was going to have to go through alone and without him, when I always saw him as being there. The day that my parents are not here anymore, I'm going to have to do alone. And the fact that he's not here to be a part of my daughter's life, and the fact that there's so many times I want to call him all the time, and he was my best friend, and like when he first died, I just remember screaming, I don't want to live in a world where he doesn't exist. So I've unfortunately had to. But he seems so alive in my head still. He was such a big personality. He just no matter what, he was just one of those people I never thought that anything could take him down or take him away. He was so good too, and it makes you so angry to see that there are bad people thriving in this world, and then one so good that's just taken from you. Why? It's not fair. It doesn't make sense. So that's something I don't think I'll never get over it. It'll just evolve. Luckily, he was an amazing artist, and I have some of his paintings, and that keeps part of him alive for me. He left that behind, beautiful things behind, and I feel him with me. I know that he's protecting me from where he is and was needed elsewhere. But I wish they would send him back to me.
I'm so sorry for your loss, and hearing about him from you and reading more in the book, it's about your relationship. It's so special to have an amazing sibling relationship, even when you grew up in a home where things were maybe a bit more complex.
Yeah.
That becomes kind of like your...
Yeah, he was my rock. We're the only two. He was the only other person who fully understood everything about me. I mean, we grew up in the same position, seeing the same things. We joked about the same things. We laughed about the same things. We cried about the same things. If we weren't 5 years apart, you would think we were personality-wise twins. So, to lose somebody who understands you on that level, yeah, and feeling like I failed to keep him safe was really hard. And of all the people that should have understood him and been there and been able to protect him, it should have been me. And I did try, and I was shaking the people around me, going, wake up to what's going on. This is serious. His struggle with addiction was serious. And I mean, I remember before he was 18 begging my parents to send him to military school, before he was capable of making decisions for himself, that they needed to do this for his safety, and he needed to be disciplined. And as much as I loved his free spiritedness, is that a word? Spiritedness, yes. He was such a deep and emotional person. He was so beautiful. I mean, I think about the way that I'm able to forgive, and how I'm the first person to see someone struggle, and I will be the first person there. Like, he was me times 100. It was just too much. I think it was too much to be him. It was overwhelming. The way he thought was overwhelming. The way he felt was overwhelming. So he had to numb too. So I get it, and I just wish I could have done something differently.
Yeah. It's hard when you love people and see them do that, and you have a deeper understanding of it because you've been there as well yourself, and know what that can look like and feel like. But again, it's too much pressure for you too. It's like, you have a big heart and you care a lot, but be kinder to yourself, because you can't, solve and save and fix everything and everyone. It's a lot.
I feel like that's something that they need to teach in school to children, like how to be kind to yourself. Teach them about negative self-talk, because that's something that we're all guilty of, and it's horrible what it does to us. What we've found out scientifically that it does to us and our energy and our way we think, and the physical, emotional, mental effects it has on us. I feel it's really important for people to understand that, even though it might be something small in their minds, that it's a big deal to talk to yourself like that. When people ask, would you talk to a friend the way you talk to yourself? And most of the time people say no. Right?
Yeah. And the pressure we put on ourselves to solve everything and fix everything and be there for everyone all the time. It's a wonderful intention and a desire, but it's impossible to live up to for anyone.
Oh yeah, absolutely agreed.
Yeah, no matter how much you care and love someone, it's impossible. But I'm so sorry for your loss, and yeah, it's one of those things that never goes away. But you get to, like you said beautifully, that he's still living with you and you still feel him, and still feeling protecting you from wherever he is. That's a really beautiful approach to grief. I can't imagine how much it took to write this book, and we're only talking about specific events that we're diving into, and there's so much more inside when people will read it and learn so much more about everything we're talking about. But I can't imagine just how much excavating it took, and then to add to it all, you write about in the book how you had a stalker, and through the isolation, through the and I'm just like,
it just keeps getting better.
How does that feel to be going through grief, to be isolated, and then be dealing with that on top of everything that you've gone through that you shared today?
They have that saying, when it rains, it pours. I feel that all the time. We go through periods of times where things are great, and then everything will go wrong all at once. And I don't know if it's Mercury in retrograde or the something in the air. Like, what is going on to make all of these things happen all at once? But the experience with him is the man who stalked me was terrifying. And this man was not just a stalker who was a big fan. Like, he was genuinely mentally unwell, and leaving message after message about how he was going to bring his katana sword and decapitate, and he was. I had to actually cancel speaking engagements that I had because he was flying and he was waiting for me there. Now, I've had stalkers before in the past who are all talk, right? And no action. And you go, after a while, you go, okay, they're not really going to do. This is somebody who's just has the time to sit here and do this. But then there are those that you realize are incredibly dangerous. They mean what they say, and the FBI and Secret Service had to get involved. And I thank them both, all of them, from the bottom of my heart for getting him and for putting him away. He did just recently get out, so
wow. That's terrible.
It's I'm feeling, all these different emotions going on while having I like the way you say it, excavated my life and written this book and put it all out there, very emotional topics. Then to deal with something like this on top of it, and knowing that he just got out of jail recently, is scary. The whole experience was just to deal with somebody that's that unhinged is terrifying. It's because it goes back to that you can't reason with the unreasonable, and you have no idea what they're capable of when you don't know what somebody is capable of. I mean, we've all seen people do things that we would never imagine people being capable of doing, and to feel like you're sitting in limbo and you have no idea if they're going to show the stories that we've heard in the past of people showing up and just boom, you're done. You're gone. To deal with somebody like that is one of the most terrifying feelings in the world.
Can't even begin to imagine. I'm happy that you're...
It was the icing. Icing on the cake. It was very, very thick.
I'm happy that you're protected and that you're taking the right precautions and measures, because you're absolutely right. And just glad that you have the right people around you to see you through this.
Yeah.
I've been, I wanted to, there's only one last thing I wanted to say to you and ask you was just, when you came in here, and I want to point this out because you've had to revisit for this conversation to talk about the book. We've revisited so many hard and dark moments in your life. But when you came in today, you had this big smile on your face. You greeted me with a really warm embrace. You were so kind. When we walked over here, we were having wonderful conversations. And you were telling me just about this next chapter of your life and how excited you are to attract goodness into your life and attract love into your life. And just, and I could see it in your eyes, and you are this light, as you said, as yourself in your journal. And I want people to know that I felt that and saw that when you came in, because, we've revisited the past that is tough and is talked about in your book, This Is Me. But when you write a book like this, it almost feels like the end of a chapter and the beginning of a new one as well. You kind of put all of this together and you share it. And I wanted to ask you that, what would you want to call the chapter of this that you're entering into now, that you walked in with today, that I got to experience?
I don't know yet. It was one of the hardest parts of this too, was figuring out what to call it. I felt like I couldn't come up with a name until I was done with the process of the book. Sometimes people do it in the middle of the experience. Sometimes people do it. They need a title before they start the process of writing. And I felt like I had to wait till the end. So, I mean, I would have to, I feel like to come up with something good, I would have to see where the book went, see where my life is going to go, because I finally feel like I have shaken off all of this darkness and this negativity, and that means that I've closed one door and another door is opened, and I can feel it opened, and I can feel all the possibility, all the possibilities, all the exciting possibilities. I feel like I have a lot more life to live.
Absolutely. I think you're one of the toughest and most vulnerable and bravest people who sat in that chair, and I really notice and acknowledge just how much work you've had to do to even be sitting here right now to share your story with this much grace and courage. So thank you for trusting me. Thank you for being here. And I'm really looking forward for people to read this book, and I hope it reaches the people who really need it right now.
Yeah.
People who may be caught in cycles that you found yourself in can break out, that it can protect others who are in the early stages of careers like yours.
I pray. I just wanted to help people. I want what I have gone through to be for a reason, to have happened, everything to have happened for a reason, and for that reason to be to help people go through whatever it is, whatever challenges they're facing, and to know that it's possible. It can be done.
Thank you, Hayden.
Thank you.
Can I give you a hug?
Of course.
Yeah.